Welcome to the Robcast. This is a show about Oakville, the people that live, work, and do business here. I'm very excited to have our guest here. This is Lorenzo Guggenheim. He is the music director and conductor of the Oakville Symphony. You are not going to want to miss this.
It's the Robcast Podcast. He's with you for the next hour or 20 minutes. Who knows? Let's see how it goes.
The Robcast is brought to you by Oakville's own Fisher Private Wealth Management of RBC Dominion Securities and Angus Fraser Private Banker with RBC Private Banking Oakville.
Here he is. It's Rob Raham.
Lorenzo, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here.
Let's pull it back here. How does one start into becoming a conductor of a symphony?
Okay.
Pull me right back to the beginning.
So I think it started, I look back at pictures from my childhood and I see myself playing piano, playing a toy guitar, playing drums. So I think when I was a teenager, maybe about 12 or something like that, I asked my mom that I wanted to play drums. And she said no.
No, all parents do.
Yes. Yeah. She loves music, but she basically said, no, drums, maybe think about it. And I think a couple of years later, I started to go to school and I had a friend that played guitar. I said, okay, I want to play piano.
Okay.
And so I started, but I started in a route that is not super typical in classical music, which is I started playing popular music from Argentina, where I'm from, rock. Then I went into jazz. Then I went into progressive rock, and that got me into classical music. So when I was 17, I was playing piano for just 3 years, but I was very focused, very, very interested.
Like, were your parents like artistic? Were they musicians? Like, was it kind of bred into you this way?
Just passionate, just loving music.
Okay.
My mother, she's a painter, and my dad was an artisan. So not really no one that played an instrument at home. Right?
Okay, good.
Which is again like the normal, the typical, getting into classical music. Someone plays an instrument and they know the value of that.
Right. Yeah.
And they start.
They have the piano in the den here. Like, we're going to practice. Right.
Exactly.
We're going to move into this. We're going to learn music. Right?
Yeah. No, not at all. So actually, when I finished high school, I had to decide what do I study now? In Argentina, we have these programs where what you do is you finish high school and you go into electrical engineering, and that's all you do. So first year of school, it's full-on electrical engineering. Nothing,
You made your decision.
You make a decision.
Or this, yeah.
Yeah. So I had different decisions, architecture, design, lots of interests. But then I realized I still will want to follow music all throughout. So I made just a very logical decision, which was I'm going into music and I want to do the best that I can.
Like in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, is that like, were you one of the few? Like most people or most students, like they would be driving towards kind of the architectural or the sciences or towards a certain career. Like or is it common for men and women to go into music at this point?
Well, not really. I had to explain to people that, I'm studying orchestra conducting. Like, what? Where do you study that? And you study that. I thought, people just become conductors.
Yeah.
So no, it was rare. And I had to, that's why being it so rare and trying to find, okay, will I actually be able to make money with this, make a living, have a career and all of that. So I decided I will actually, before knowing it was orchestra conducting, I just played the piano when I was 17. I liked playing. I played at school. I had a band. I had a jazz band, that kind of things. Yeah. I realized I want to have the best education I can have.
Right.
And when I looked at the different programs at the different conservatories and universities, I found that the orchestra conducting program was the most complete. So I signed up, and I didn't know if I would like it or not.
I mean, it's pretty special. I mean, growing up here as Canadians, like we kind of get forced into university. You take general arts, you take sciences, you go into law, you go to this. You kind of took a stand, it sounds like, that you want to pursue your actual passion.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. At that young age, still 17, I realized that I would continue doing music anyways. And that's one difference that we have here in Canada and in Argentina, which I really appreciate of the way that we have here, is the fact that an orchestra, for example, like the Oakville Symphony, where I'm the conductor, as you said, is we have lots of volunteer musicians. So those are people that have their lives doing other things.
Right.
And they are the engineers, the doctors. There are lots of different careers. But they still are able to continue playing music at a very high level.
Yeah.
In Argentina, it's very hard to do that. If you're going to be spending...
one way or the other?
It's one way or the other. If you're going to be spending a lot of time devoted to something like music, then it better bring some money.
So you were talking about, you kind of went through the pop, the rock, and you're playing the piano. You're 17, you're coming out of high school, you're making your decision to go into this kind of career. How do you fast forward to being 23 and being the lead conductor of the Teatro Colón, which is one of the most infamous symphonies in Buenos Aires? Like, how does it go?
So that was just something that a little bit luck, but a little bit of a lot of effort. So what happened at that time? There was this kind of master class with a very famous and important teacher there, and he picked out of I don't know how many. Hundreds of people applied, and we were 8 selected to be there and conduct that orchestra, and then we were allowed to conduct the concert as well. So that was just like a beginning of a place that said, "Oh, this is now the real thing. I want to be here."
Like, that your first?
I'm not living
up
that.
in front, like conducting. I mean, obviously, you went to school for it and trained for it.
Yeah.
But was that your first kind of coming out party there?
Yeah. Well, it was the first time with the broad audience in a way, with the broad public. Before that, we had an orchestra at the university that we would have concerts with, also a professional orchestra. But then that was the first time facing the real audience at the Teatro Colón, which is most famous for its acoustic. It's beautiful, and I had been many times.
It's infamous for being one of the most renowned orchestra. Like the actual acoustics in that space are like world renowned of all the orchestra symphony areas. Right?
Yeah, it is. It's a very, very special place. So a little bit of that energy I stay with, and I continue throughout, and I remember that beginning as well as something that I cherish and I want to continue doing.
Do you remember being like on the stage and being like, "Here we go"? Like, do you remember the feeling? Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. I also remember I think we had to be there at 9 a.m., but I asked what was the time that the theater opened. I think I was there at 6 a.m. Just checking the place from behind. I used to go all the time to listen to shows, but I wanted to see what the dressing rooms looked like, what it was behind the stage. They had these huge scenes, like all the architecture that they use for the operas, and just being there. So I was there on my own in the big hall, taking selfies, taking it all in, breathing, listening, clapping, and doing all that.
Yeah. And like that led to other opportunities. Like it sounds like the next one you kind of led the Symphony of Chile.
Yeah. So the conducting world, it's interesting in a way that you're all the time applying for things. So you are there apply for master classes, which are half learning opportunities, half development as well, or you're applying for these jobs opportunities. There's a lot of training, because as a conductor, you're 23. It's like you're starting to be CEO when you're starting to be conductor. You're starting to be in the front of the orchestra, and then you're like, well, you're 23. You don't have experience. We won't have you as CEO. Show us if you're actually ready for this. So in a way, you have to prove yourself and have the experience and learn. You cannot learn conducting if you're not in front of an orchestra. So I went to Chile. There was another master class as well with another renowned conductor who actually wasn't able to get. So we had another second conductor, things like this. And I was also selected to conduct there the National Symphony of Chile.
Yeah. So when I looked, and started to research conductors, and I have a bit of a background in music, but obviously nothing to your...
I'm curious, though.
We'll get into that maybe. But, the average age, they say, is 46 to 50 years old, right? It sounds like you have to kind of earn your stripes. So how does a person like yourself get into these situations and get picked out of, obviously, the hundreds of applicants? Is there something that separated yourself, that people saw in you?
I think so, yes. I'm sure there had been something that stood out. And... for me, it's that passion. But when we started talking about the studying part, right? So when you're studying, the passion is on learning. And that's why as early career conductors, sometimes it's hard to get past that. Okay, it's a technical aspect. Where does my hand go? What instrument is playing? What type of music do I program? And all of that. But in the end, it's all about the people and the connection to people. And I think I realized that quite early on, where it's my connection to the music that it's important to generate something in my connection to the people. And the people that are alive, they're not decomposed, that most of them are dead, is with people that are making music for other people that are listening to it. And I'm just a messenger in between. I'm not really... I'm not making music. That's one of the things. My baton doesn't make a sound. So I need to be able to really portray what what my idea of the sound of the music and the message overall that we want to do.
It's actually, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity because I've never actually had a one-on-one with a conductor. When you have the music in front of you and you're conducting, you don't have the full scroll of what everyone's do you? You have the strings, you have the...
Absolutely, everything.
So you have the,
everything. The control. So yeah, the thing
so you're
is,
able to look at all the different lines and all the different things. Obviously, you know the music that you're playing. You've rehearsed
not
it,
really.
you're ready.
Not always. It's part of the training. It's that part of the training where most of us play piano because that's the easiest instrument to be able to really get all the notes that are being played simultaneously.
Right, and I mean, to read that is challenging. It's treble clef, it's bass clef. You're reading two different lines, and some people can't put that together.
And transpositions, there are instruments.
You're talking about multiple lines.
And simultaneous. So you learn how to read that scroll, that big staff that may have, 40 lines between all the woodwinds and the brass and the percussion, maybe 5 lines for percussion, the strings, it's a soloist, a voice, a choir, all of that is there. But you need that because when you are rehearsing, if what the musicians have, it's only their part. They know how to do their job. And they they should know how to do their job even better than myself.
Yeah. But you're the one who cues it. You're the timing, you're the cue.
Yeah, and the one that gives it coherence. And the one that gives it one idea of where we're going with that, right? Yeah. So we may have a fabulous clarinet player and then a fabulous oboe player, and they may have a different view of how that music should sound, right? So sometimes it's my role to unify that, or sometimes it's my role to say, well, we're doing two different things, clarifying, yes, we're doing on purpose these two different things, even though the music that we have in front of us looks the same, there's always options.
Yeah, they put their own spin on it, right?
Exactly.
And you have to be able to work with them if they're the specialist or the soloist.
Exactly,
yes?
exactly.
Or the featured kind of instrument.
Yeah, but soloist is the right word. So in an orchestra, we had the strings, which we call sections, because they have, we have 20 players playing one line. So they're a section of violins. But then we have the clarinets. They are soloists because each one of them is playing one particular line. They're not doubling that.
Right.
That's the difference with a band, or an orchestra. A symphonic band, or a band where we have. The clarinets are playing a line, so you have 20 clarinets are playing just one line. So that's basically the difference there.
Let me ask you this: so you've had this kind of quick upbringing. You've gone to school. You've done these great performances in Buenos Aires, in Chile. What led you to come up to Canada? It sounds like your first step was coming up to Winnipeg. Like, how did you come up here?
Yeah. So before that, I've always had this idea of traveling and leaving Argentina for a while and finding more opportunities. It's very hard, to be honest, in Argentina to make a career with music. My teachers, really the best conductors that I could find there, they had very successful careers. I was like, okay, if I even get to that, I still, it's a tough. It's tough living there for certain reasons. The economy is always in the news and never for a good thing.
Right.
So I knew I wanted to pursue a career in North America or Europe. And so I actually went to Seattle to do my master's.
Okay.
So I did my master's at the University of Washington, had a fabulous time. I collaborated with the Seattle Symphony, which is a major, really important orchestra, and they have a very unique way as well to connecting with their audience. And after that, I said, okay, I want to stay in North America, maybe not in the States. So, and with my family, then we looked into, actually, I Googled. It was just like that. Toronto conducting DMA. So I came here for my doctorate. Just as simple as that. Yeah. I sent an email to my mentor here, Uri Meyer, and he gave me a call back. After an email, he called me. I was like, okay, this is serious now. And he said, you should come to apply. You would be a good candidate. So I came here. We applied, which means that I came and auditioned here with the orchestra of the students to do my doctorate, to become a student here.
This is University of Toronto?
That's University of Toronto. Yeah. So I came here basically for that, and that was 6 years ago now. Okay,
so now you finished your degree here at U of T, your master's in music, right?
Yeah, I finished it.
Okay, so we're still working on that. You also are the founder of the U of T
Campus Philharmonic Orchestra.
Philharmonic Orchestra.
Yes.
Are you still involved with that?
Yeah, so that's an orchestra that I created when I got here, I realized, even before I came to Toronto, I just looked at the numbers. Around 100,000 students at U of T, and they have one orchestra that's for music students and one orchestra that's not for music students. I said, there's place for more.
Sure.
And so as I landed, I started creating my orchestra that's for non-music majors. So what we have is people that study other careers, staff, faculty members, and then we also have people from the community, maybe not related to U of T, and we play, and we started that in 2018, and we haven't stopped since then.
It sounds like is that kind of a different initiative or approach to like doing something like that? Like I've never heard of kind of being at university and pulling out from the kind of outside of the actual course that you're in.
Yeah,
right?
so people that's what I think we've been able to continue through these 6 years. It's the fact that actually they tell me, the students, graduate students or first year students of undergrad, and they tell me, I'm really glad I found this. This gave me an opportunity to actually do something else, not just focus on my study, bring my instrument. Like people perhaps they play cello, they didn't bring their cello to dorm, but
right.
now they did. They said, oh no, there's an opportunity. Actually, I'll bring it. I continue with this that I studied in high school, and I actually enjoy, and gives me an outlet. So there's actually a lot of that. And what I like is the connections that start being created there, because like I said, we have staff, we have faculty, we have students and their faculty teachers, starting and playing one next to each other in a stand, and now they're doing something together.
You're making me think, is there a difference between a student or a musician who's doing it out of passion and just out of hobby and love, and someone who's trying to make a career out of it and be the best at what they do?
Well, the difference, I think, is it's also time and the commitment that you can get, right? Someone that is doing their undergrad in medical sciences, they won't have 8 hours to practice a day.
No.
Someone that is studying to be a musician,
Yep.
they will probably have to dedicate those times. So with that practice, it comes a different level of playing. Maybe not a different passion, right? Maybe it's the same passion from the doctor that spends an hour a day playing the piano than someone that does that for a living.
Sure. So let's segue. How do you now become the director of music and the lead conductor of the Oakville Symphony? How does that come to be?
Yeah, so the orchestra had a wonderful music director, was Roberto de Clara,
Right.
and he was here for 24 years, and he had decided to finish his tenure in a way here,
Yeah.
and that came right at the time of the pandemic. So there were, all arts organizations went into a very difficult time, and here the Oakville Symphony, on top of that, were under search of music director, which meant that I think there was around 60 candidates that sent their tapes and their material. It was very, very rigorous. Mm-hmm. And then we had a round of interviews when we met some of the board members, some of the musicians. We talked, they asked questions, tough questions. And then there was a second round of interviews when they asked us to, for example, send a video of us explaining a piece of music that they sent the score. They didn't say what the music was. They said, okay, this is the score, talk to it to our audience. So I had to send a tape. Again, it was COVID, so I put on my suit for the first time in a year and a half, and I was in my living room and just chatting.
Were you wearing the pants too, or just the top half?
No, the whole
you
thing.
put the pants. Okay,
yeah,
good.
yeah. I wanted the job.
Yeah. So you put the pants on. Good.
I put the pants on.
Yeah.
And all sorts of things. And then after that, what they do is they invite 4 candidates to do a show with the orchestra. So that was the 2021-22 season, where each of the 4 main season concerts had a different guest conductor. And so from that, I was very lucky to be the chosen one. But it was a process of more than 2 years.
Like a pretty serious process. Like how much time from the beginning to the end of when they selected you in the end? Like how much?
It was probably 2 years. And the most public job interview ever, because you're there in front of the orchestra trying to do your best, because you're being tested in front of an audience that are also testing you, because they were also being asked for feedback.
Like, what do you think separated you from the other people? I mean, I'm not to put yourself, but what do you think Oakville was looking for? Or
it's a fit. It's something that's just a fit. I was very interested in having this opportunity, and I did a lot of research on Oakville. Yeah. I got really interested in the community. So it was more than just about the music. I knew the musical part. That's what I've been working on my whole life. What I want to work again, it's about the people, the connections, learning about our musicians, learning about our audience, what do they care for, what do they want, what are their interests. So actually in my cover letter, I think I mentioned so many things about Oakville that I still nowadays, a couple of years later, I recall as being really important, because now I understand, or I start to understand what this community is for.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, part of your experience at U of T with the Philharmonic group that you put together, this is what the Oakville Symphony is. They're volunteers. Some of them, they're not paid. Are they paid?
We have some. So we always discuss what's the right term for this orchestra. Is it a community orchestra? Is it a semi-professional? Is it a hybrid orchestra? We have different terms. There's a tendency, it's very normal here to call these community groups a community orchestra. And I like the term for it representing that your community is there on stage. But what I don't like is the fact that there is a certain aspect that it kind of feels like it's talking about the level of the music that you will hear, and that's definitely not what you're hearing.
It's a community band, which kind of might seem like it lowers
I'm going to see a community show, a community, community stand-up
at the back of the church, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And for us, no, this is very serious, and we're semi-professional because we do have professional musicians. Not only myself as the lead, but also we have 12 professional musicians that accompany us throughout the season at every rehearsal. And then we have some other extra musicians that come for the shows. And then we have young artists who are mentees from us. They apply for this program where they get a stipend to play with us. And there's students, but they're very serious about their studies as well. And then our community players, our volunteer musicians, as I like to say, some of them are music teachers. They do play very well. Some of them have been playing. We have one of the founding members playing with the orchestra. The orchestra was founded 57 years ago.
1967?
She's above 90, and she's still playing with the orchestra. So she's played far more concerts than I have played. So is she a professional musician? I mean, she doesn't get paid by us to do that, but she does bring her experience, and she brings her know-how of how to play that instrument. So what we're offering, it's always really, it is professional.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been to multiple shows at the Oakville Performing Arts Center with the Oakville Symphony, and one of the things that always stood out to me is sometimes they bring like a 10-year-old violinist out as a soloist, or they're highlighting the young talent in our area. How involved are you in kind of seeking out the talent? Is that a process to find out, or do they kind of come forward? Is there what's that process to find the new talent that's coming up in Oakville?
Yeah, so there isn't a process per se. There's one way of doing things. I try to be much involved with the community as much as I can. I have a young family, so sometimes that is a little bit harder, but I still always try to just get out there and meet people and talk. So yeah, there is a part of the job is finding that talent. So every season we have 4 concerts, four main subscription concerts, and we have holidays, and we have lots of community events and for families, but we have our main subscription concerts, so we have the chance to invite just 4 guest artists in a way, if we want to invite just one for each show. So each year I try to bring at least one local player, and this year we have a fabulous soprano. She's from the area. She just finished her master's at U of T, actually. So she's coming in May to sing. And I knew about her from U of T, from a board member, from someone that told me she sang at a church. So you start to learn about this talent
I guess
that
if
is
you're
local.
in the industry, you can start to hear the murmurs of talent coming up, right? And you want to get your hands on that, right?
Yeah. And there's so much talent here in Oakville. And sometimes that talent is also like exported right away. Like we have fabulous string players that they play directly with the Toronto Symphony Youth Orchestra, and we have a fabulous orchestra as well here, the Oakville Symphony Youth Orchestra. But sometimes they go just one higher step and say, okay, I want to go directly to Toronto, and then their next step they're going to the States, and maybe the next step they're going to Europe. So sometimes finding those students and those young artists and be able to bring them and stay here locally to give us also part of their talent and sharing their talent with us. Sometimes it takes some work.
Yeah. Take me through like what the day-to-day. You have like the Oakville Symphony. Or how often are you practicing? Like who's choosing the music? Like what's your day-to-day kind of job life look like? Yeah,
so the day-to-day of a conductor can be quite different because again, our main focus is the music. Like I want to know the music like the palm of my hand. So we spend a lot of time studying scores. Sure. And that's just a part that sometimes it's hard to find the moment.
You decide which is going to be the next.
So as music, that's sometimes the difference between a music director and a conductor. So the conductor comes and conducts. Maybe they pick that concert, but the music director is in charge of the whole music for the orchestra, right? So as music director, I get to choose and plan way ahead of time what we're going to be playing next season, right? So we haven't started this season. I'm already talking to guest artists for the next one, and we're in September, and we're going to get our show going, first one in November, and I'm already thinking of the following season.
Right.
And finding that balance of music that people know, that people should know, that people will feel connected
is it open
to.
Conversation, are the board of directors at the Oakville Performing Arts Center involved? Are the musicians involved, or is it just you just have a feeling that this is the right?
Yeah, I do have a feel. I do get them involved. Sometimes I try to get a plan and get an idea, and then I share it with the musicians, with our professional musicians as well. It's hard to get everyone involved because, again, we're 80 people in the orchestra.
You're not going to please everyone, right?
Exactly. So I do have a strong idea of where I want us to go, and the board knows my vision, and they share that. And so it's with them, the board of the orchestra of the Oakville Symphony. It's the one that also gets their say into what we're doing. And I always have a focus. Like, look, even in my interview, I said something that I think was quite direct, which is like, in the orchestra, I'm sure you at least have more than half of people playing are women. And there were. And you don't play music by women composers. So since I came, we started playing regularly music by women composers, which sometimes it's hard to find because women composers were oppressed throughout a lot of time.
Right.
They were not allowed to compose, and if they did, their music would not get played. So throughout history, it's very hard to find actually music written by women. But whatever is there and whatever has been played, it's fabulous.
Like, are we getting into the more 20th century?
Everything.
I mean, it's going back to Beethoven and all these other people, that's not were there women composers then? We just didn't know about them?
Marianne Martinez, she was a Spanish from Spanish heritage. She was a neighbor from Haydn.
Okay.
So she was a composer back then, and right now, because we now change our mindset, we're starting to find that music, and it is
back
getting
then,
played.
Her music did not come out. She was writing, and she didn't come out.
Yeah.
But
I'm
now,
not a specialist in her music especially, but we have tons of things like that. For example, last year we played, for the first time, the Oakville Symphony played a major work by a female composer, because that's the other thing. It's easy when you're programming, okay, I'll have a Beethoven symphony, everyone knows about it. Yep. I have the young superstar playing a concerto, whatever they learn, and then I have to put a short piece. Okay, I'll put a 5-minute female composer, alive, and that fills the gap of being, well, I'm putting someone that's alive and I'm putting someone that's a woman, and okay, I fill the blanks. But what for me is special, besides doing that, it's important and relevant, is also actually sharing the stage equally. So last year we played, for the first time in Canada, this piece had been written 120 years ago. It's a piece by Leokadia Kashperova, and she was Stravinsky's piano teacher. So Igor Stravinsky, very important composer in the history of music, and she taught him piano, and we don't know about her music. She composed this fabulous symphony.
Piano.
Yes, and she was a fabulous composer. She had one symphony in B minor, this very romantic, lush, expansive symphony, and it hasn't been played in Canada until we played it last year. And the audience, I think, without hesitation, that's the piece that they love the most from the season. And none of them had heard it before or even knew about it. So opening the space to music that is relevant and is important, that's crucial for me. Like in this first concert, we're playing music by Amy Beach. She was writing this piece at the end of she was 1896. She wrote the piece, and it was played in Boston by the Boston Symphony. Mm-hmm. So it was a big deal, but it doesn't share that much space.
Right. So, Lorenzo, let me ask you. I mean, in years past, our mayor has kind of said that they're looking to redevelop the Oakville Performing Arts and Library area, right? And it hasn't kind of come. They've had plans. They've invested money on different plans, but it hasn't come to fruition yet. Are you kind of privy to any things that are coming down the pipeline?
So what I know is what I know from the councils and the town council. When I came, I knew of the plans actually were to break ground there in 2022, and of course the pandemic changed lots of things. I know there are plans, and I think it has been approved that they will move the center, create a new center for performing arts that's a lot more suitable where the library is now, and they're moving the library that's already been announced. So that's as much as I know. Those are the plans. The issue is that when I was given the first tour of the center, when I was coming just as a guest conductor, I started noticing something weird in the place. The place was built, so the Oakville Center, as far as I understand, it meant to be a lot larger, but there was during a time that there was some also economic problem, and instead of saying, well, we'll just change the whole design and make it a smaller theater, they started cutting things. So like the dressing rooms areas are not, we don't fit, and not only us, shows that come don't fit. It's not an accessible theater, and that's one of the main issues. Lots of the people would love to come and see us. They can't because it has big accessibility issues. The center as it is right now, you only can go down the stairs. They have a studio theater downstairs, and you cannot access that.
Right. Yeah.
So there are lots of problems in the backstage area as well. The size of the stage, the way that the audience area is built. So as a town like us grows, it's only normal that we'll have a space that will fit all of the arts that are coming to town. We have bands that are coming. We have lots of local groups that want to perform there, but they end up going to neighboring towns as well, because those are the places that fit them, right? So besides knowing exactly when this will happen, I just hope to be able to be also a voice showing the importance of that. Because sometimes we, living our daily lives is like, well, this amount of dollars for a performing arts centers where I still have to go and pay tickets. But for a community, having a theater that allows for it to be expressed, the community, the people from the community, to get the shows that you want to come, that they don't go to Mississauga and Burlington, and you want them to come to Oakville, and start continuing to build that cultural hub that we are.
Yeah. So let's fast forward 5 years from now. What do you envision? What do you see that area being? What do you see your role in it?
Yeah, so I hope that the project that ends up being approved and built is something that, like I say, can accommodate all the arts. So a symphony and a symphony orchestra it's one of the most wonderful organizations that there is. And you have 80 people on stage playing acoustic instruments. You have plays that are playing strings, so it's hair from a horsetail, and they're bowing that on a piece of metal that has something, and then there's a piece of wood that is the violin, and that has to resonate, and you have 80 people playing their instruments, and so the theater is also an instrument, so you want that theater to resonate with the sound. And so usually these places are built to accommodate that, to accommodate a choir, that we have so many wonderful choirs, and to accommodate as well as a band coming in, or a theater, or maybe an opera production, with at the time it's very hard to do at the center as we have it now. So I really hope to be able to see a project that really contains all of that.
I guess what I'm getting at is, there's I'm not going to put down any places in Toronto, but there's so many places that have been built as opera houses or symphony houses, but they're not acoustically done. They're just kind of boxes that are meant to just get people in and get shows in. It sounds like you have a different vision for, it's not just making a bigger space. It has to be like an acoustically developed and really well thought through space.
Yeah, I have been to the Burlington Performing Arts Center, and a space like that was designed with that type of intention, where you can have a symphony orchestra, and you can have the tiers, and it's meant for that. But at the same time, lots of band that goes there, and you have all types of shows.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think we deserve, that as a town that is growing and that is really culturally rich and has a place that can accommodate the people. Look, Cultural Days is coming, where arts organizations are doing events for free. So we're doing a concert for free here on October 5th at the Oakville Center. It sold out overnight.
I bet.
overnight.
That's
And that's 500 people because that's how many people fit in our theater. And those are local people that want to come and see us. So if we had a theater that fit 1,000 people, then well, maybe we would have 1,000 people there at that event and many others.
Yeah. What are you excited about in the upcoming season of what your performances are, and what would you like to tell people out there in Oakville to look forward to?
Yeah, we have really a fabulous season. We titled it Experience Emotion, because what people think of when they're thinking of an orchestra, maybe they have their own idea of what is there. And for us, it's about storytelling and sharing certain emotions. So we actually titled each of the 4 shows that we have. The first weekend, it's easy because it's always we're doing a Saturday evening and then Sunday afternoon. So Saturday evening, Sunday afternoon, and we're doing first weekend of November, first weekend of February, first weekend of April, first weekend of May. So it's quite easy, and we call them majestic because we're playing all pieces that are about that feeling of, when you listen to an orchestra, it's like, wow, it just comes right to you. And then we're doing in February for Valentine's Day, we're playing some music by John Williams. So from his films, we're doing music from Star Wars and from the love theme from Indiana Jones and from Superman, and that one is called Passionate. And then we're doing in April, we have Fearless, and we have a local player. He's a trumpet player who plays with the Nashville Symphony. He's really fantastic top player. He got help from the community here in Oakville and Mississauga to get his studies in Juilliard funded.
Okay.
So he finished that. He got a fabulous job there with another opera as well. And he's coming here to play for the first time. He's playing a trumpet concerto. But he's just such a virtuoso that he's not only playing a trumpet concerto, he's also playing a piano concerto. So he'll be playing both of them, and we're doing also Stravinsky's Firebird. So it's really a fearless, very energetic performance. And the last one that we have, it's Vibrant. And I call that a playlist, that concert, because we have lots of different small things, some jazz, we're doing a Dave Brubeck Blue Rondeau, and a harmonica concerto, diatonic harmonica, never played in Canada. So we have a Beethoven Symphony as well to accompany that. So we have a season that really has lots of opportunities for everyone, and we have our holiday concert in December that always sells out at the minute. So I'm really looking forward to a season that will attract lots of new people as well coming. We still have some seats, and we sell subscriptions and we sell single tickets, so it should always be a place for you at the Symphony.
Lorenzo, this brings us to the part of the show. It's called the Robcast Rapid Ask, right? So you're not ready for this. If it was your last day on Earth, you had one last meal just by yourself, what's on that plate?
The first things that come to mind, it's a very typical Argentine dish, which is milanesas con puré, which is, it's like a veal, like a schnitzel, but made of beef. Okay. And just mashed potatoes.
Is it like a tomato sauce base?
No.
Is there just straight?
That. Yeah, so it's a breaded, like breaded veal in a way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's very typical. Could be fried though. Fried, yeah, maybe fried.
Do we call that like schnitzel here? Is that kind of?
Yeah, it's like a schnitzel, but schnitzel I think is usually pork.
Right.
So it's like a schnitzel but with beef.
Got it. This might be a tough one for you. If you've just had a great show at the Oakville Performing Arts Center, and you're driving home, do you listen to music? Are you done with music? If you were to listen, what is the music you put on? Yeah. Are you listening to opera? Are you listening to symphonies? Are you listening to Beethoven?
Yeah. So if it's after a show, maybe not. Like maybe because also the show we start with dress rehearsal, and I get to the theater at 11 a.m. and I'm the last one to leave at 11 p.m. But regularly, if I'm on my own, maybe I'm listening to podcasts, to be honest. But if I'm listening to music, I listen to everything. I really do. I love jazz and I love rock, and I'm listening a lot of Disney songs at this moment with my young family. So a little bit of that too. But actually, one thing that we actually played some Frozen this summer because the orchestral arrangements for that are fabulous. Top of the world.
They are great songs unless you hear them 1,000 times a day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. For the young people out there watching who are getting into piano or trying to, they're going to school and they're like, I want to pursue music, what would you kind of give them as advice?
Yeah. Discipline is always the thing that is talked about the most. And that's important to always continue doing what you're doing and do it with passion. And always ask questions about why do I like this? Is this something that brings me joy because of what I'm doing physically, because of what I like to hear? And I think the most important thing is also to listen to music and come to our shows, go to see other shows, be immersed in music as a whole, not just on the thing that you are practicing, right? So being out there with the community, with the arts community as a whole, I think it's really key.
Lorenzo, it sounds like the Oakville Symphony is in great hands, and I can't wait to see the work and the productions that you do moving forward. And I thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Stay tuned for another episode of the Robcast.
The Robcast is brought to you by Oakville's own Fisher Private Wealth Management of RBC Dominion Securities and Fraser Associates of RBC Private Banking.